Handsome Jimmy's the number one seller of that concept.
Man, he could. I love Handsome Jimmy. I mean, I loved him when I talked to him. I love watching him. The wrestling was like he'd dance down the ring. He'd dance when
Yep.
he was attacking somebody. He'd dance when he was registering a fence. He'd dance after the match. He's
Yeah.
just an entertainment machine, that guy.
Well, that was his match. I brought him somewhere. Oh, I brought Sandman to Puerto Rico one time, and his big deal is going around and drinking everybody's beer while his music plays. And I forgot Sabio Vega was there. He says, "Why don't we just get right into the match?" I says, "Listen, you can't take his entrance away from him because that's the match." And I said, "Right when he gets ready to finish it, you guys attack him. Then there's no drop, and we'll go from there." And he came back. We did that. Came back, and Sabio looked at me. He said, "Well, that was the best advice I got tonight." He said, "Let him do it because people come to see that. They want to see him dance." But Jimmy, I saw him dance around the ring. He danced down and he'd get in the ring and he'd dance and hit his knee bumps and he'd do something stupid and people laughing. And they were having a hell of a time. Kids loved him. People just loved him. And then he'd dance out. That was Handsome Jimmy. That was his whole deal. If he could get that in, you got a good night in. So Jimmy, but if you met him in the dressing room, you wouldn't, if you put a mask on him or put him behind a wall or say a screen, you wouldn't know it's him. He's very low key, low tone. You ask him a question, he say, "Yeah, brother." It's almost like he didn't even raise his voice. I said, "Jimmy, you okay?" "Yeah, man. Yeah. I love you, man."
He was so nice when I talked to him as well. I mean, I asked him one question, and then I didn't speak for the next 25 minutes. He just rattled off in his entire... And it was only about the first match he had with Jerry Lawler. And that went 25 minutes, and I just sat down and shut up and just let him go, and it was great.
Well, remember what I was talking about, I think last week, about Bray Wyatt?
Mm-hmm.
You got to make them think that this guy is something special. And Memphis was always good about that because they would promote the guy, promote the guy, promote the guy. Then he shows up with Jimmy Hart, which is putting another stamp on him that he's a big time deal. And him and Lawler, they drew some great houses. See, Lawler was always like the standby in Memphis. He was always there. And you saw a few of them around the country, like Dusty in Florida. You know, if Dusty wasn't on the card, people didn't want to go see it. So he was over so much. Bruno in New York or that area, if he was on the card, it was a big card. And you never saw Bruno on TV. I think you saw probably Dusty more on TV than you would some of them. But Handsome Jimmy, later on, you saw him on TV, but not that much because they held him back. I mean, they would use him at TV, but not necessarily at a match. And he would come out there and he'd do his interview and, "Yeah, daddy, this, that, and the other." And the people, if you're sitting there, say you're in Memphis, you're just sitting there and you're watching the wrestling show, and all of a sudden here comes Handsome Jimmy, do, 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 the boy from New York City, and he goes around the ring, whether he's a heel or baby. People loved him anyway. It's entertaining. And you'd watch it, and then him and Jimmy Hart doing an interview. Oh, it's gold. You look at it, you say, and these guys, they didn't have a writer for them to write that stuff down. Jimmy was Jimmy, Valiant was Valiant, and Jimmy Hart was Jimmy Hart. And they would go out there cold and do an interview you thought they'd worked on for like 3 months. They just do their stuff, then they'd leave or whatever they had to do. And that's the part of being a pro. You could go out there with 30 seconds notice and turn it on. And that's what you look like, what you look for in wrestlers who can go at a moment's notice, because who knows when you got to go out there. But these guys were Jimmy Hart, tremendous. Jimmy Valiant, tremendous. They had another guy in Memphis called the Dream Machine.
Troy Graham.
Oh, that guy was tremendous. And he would do little, he actually did rapping before I knew rapping was a thing. But he did it like a white rapper. And he was over with those people. And he would go out there and he wasn't a great wrestler. He didn't have to be, but he was over. And I think he was one of Jimmy Hart's guys. And Jimmy Hart had what they call the family. And the family kept running their kinfolks off because we'd all come through there. Then he'd get rid of you because you didn't do the job. Then you turned babyface. Then you started fighting him. And they kept this up for like 5 years. And you know, to keep heat like Jimmy Hart kept for 5 years is great booking and great talent. So when you put those two together, you have a winning combination.